On the 18th of April 1943, 4 boys entered Hagley Wood. They were not looking for a body. They were bird nesting, or poaching. The detail changes by account, but the result does not. Inside a hollow tree, 1 boy saw a skull. Not buried, not hidden under leaves. Inside the tree itself, a human skull, with hair still attached, with teeth still visible. The boys panicked. They put it back. Then they went home. For a few hours, the body stayed secret. But secrets do not hold for long. By that evening, police were in Hagley Wood. They cut into the tree. Inside was almost an entire skeleton. A woman, dead for at least 18 months. Placed inside the hollow trunk. Possibly soon after death. 1 hand was missing. A shoe was found. Fragments of clothing were found. A ring was found. And inside her mouth was cloth. That cloth changed everything. Because it suggested suffocation. The police had a body. They had clothing. They had teeth. They had a crime scene. What they did not have was her name. Then the writing appeared. Not in the wood. On walls. In streets. Across the Midlands. 1 question. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? That question became the case. And more than 80 years later, nobody has answered it. That's where the myth begins. Hagley Wood sits near Stourbridge, Worcestershire. Quiet land. Private land. In 1943, Britain was deep inside war. Rationing shaped daily life. Travel was watched. Blackouts changed the streets. People disappeared for many reasons. Evacuation, war work, bombing, military service, bad records, broken families. That matters. Because a missing woman in 1941 was not automatically suspicious. Not in wartime Britain. Not when cities were being bombed. Not when movement was constant. Not when police resources were stretched thin. The war gave the killer cover. Not deliberately, perhaps, but effectively. The body was found in April 1943. Forensic evidence suggested she had already been dead since late 1941. That left a gap of roughly 18 months. A gap large enough for memories to blur. Large enough for witnesses to move. Large enough for records to scatter. That gap doesn't sound like much. But in wartime Britain, it was a wall. The boys were local. 4 of them. They entered the wood illegally. That is why they stayed silent at first. 1 of them climbed the tree. Another account says he looked inside. Either way, he saw something pale. At first, he thought it was an animal skull. Then he saw hair. Then teeth. That changed the meaning instantly. They pulled the skull out. Then fear took over. They pushed it back inside. Then they left. This small decision mattered. It meant the first contact with the remains was not police. It was children, untrained, frightened, trying not to be caught. That gave the investigation its first problem. The scene was already disturbed. Not maliciously, but enough. 1 boy eventually told his father. His father called police. By then, daylight was fading on the case's first day. And the tree was no longer just a tree. It was a container, a coffin, and possibly, a message. Police opened the trunk. Inside was a near-complete skeleton. The victim was female. She was probably around 35. She was around 1.5 meters tall. About 5 feet. She had distinctive teeth. Some front teeth overlapped. That should have helped. Dental records were checked. Missing persons reports were compared. Descriptions were circulated. But nobody matched. Nobody came forward. Nobody claimed her. That is one of the strangest parts. This was not a body found in deep water. Not ash. Not scattered bones in a field. There were clues. A shoe. A ring. Clothing. Teeth. Hair. A place. A time frame. Still, no name. The police could say she was dead. They could say roughly when. They could say how she may have died. But they could not say who she was. Without a name, the case had no center. Only a question. The most important evidence was found in her mouth. A piece of taffeta. A clothing fabric. Reports describe it as being pushed deep inside. Professor James Webster examined the remains. He found no clear violence on the bones. No obvious fracture. No blunt trauma visible on the skeleton. But the cloth suggested another possibility. Suffocation. That made the death suspicious. The problem is simple. Bones do not record every kind of killing. A skull can show impact. Ribs can show force. A blade can mark bone. But soft tissue violence can vanish. Suffocation leaves little behind after decomposition. Just like smoke leaving a room. The smell can remain, but the shape is gone. That is why the cloth mattered. It was not decorative evidence. It was the mechanism, or it might have been. because even that detail became disputed. The boys later said they had used cloth on a stick. They may have pushed it into the skull. That creates uncertainty. Was the cloth part of the murder, or part of the discovery? The official case never escaped that problem. The evidence was strong, but not clean. Then there was the hand. One hand was not with the main skeleton. It was later found nearby. That one detail opened the door to decades of speculation. Some accounts treat the hand as severed. Others are more cautious. Animal disturbance is possible. Post-mortem movement is possible. The records do not give a clean supernatural answer. But the missing hand became irresistible. Because folklore already had a ready-made image. The hand of glory, a severed hand used in a cult legend. A charm, a criminal tool in folk belief. A symbol heavy enough to distort a murder case. In 1945, the archaeologist Margaret Murray suggested witchcraft. That theory caught fire, not because it was proven, because it was memorable. A woman in a tree, a missing hand, a strange name on a wall, a wartime landscape. The ingredients were perfect, but perfect stories are dangerous. They can swallow evidence whole. The witchcraft theory gave the case color. It did not give it proof. The graffiti changed the case. At first, the victim had no name. Then walls gave her one. Bella. The wording varied. Some early versions said, Lubella. Others said, Bella. Some said, down the Wych Elm. Others said, in the Wych Elm. The message was not always identical, but the effect was. It made the case public. It gave the unknown woman a title. It also suggested someone knew more. Police took the writing seriously. It was not placed like a child's scrawl. It appeared high enough to concern investigators. It spread across areas near Birmingham. The writer was never identified. That matters, because the graffiti could mean three things. First, the writer knew the victim. Second, the writer knew the killer. Third, the writer knew nothing. They may have simply repeated a local rumor. The third option is the least exciting. It is also the most common in cold cases. A phrase catches. A mystery feeds itself. Then the myth walks around wearing evidence's coat. Bella may not even have been her name. It may have been a guess, a taunt, a joke, a rumor, or a clue. That is the cruelty of the case. Every answer opens another door. The spy theory came later, and it made sense to people. The Midlands mattered during the war. Factories, munitions, aircraft production, industrial targets. Enemy intelligence had reason to care. So when people imagined a hidden wartime agent, the setting felt plausible. Then came the name Clara Bauerler, a German cabaret singer, connected in stories to Nazi intelligence. Linked to Joseph Jacobs. Jacobs was a German agent. He parachuted into England in 1941. He was captured almost immediately. He became the last person executed at the Tower of London. Among his possessions was a photograph of Clara Bauerler. Later claims suggested Clara may have been sent to Britain. Some connected her to the woman in the tree. It is a powerful idea. A German spy, a failed mission, a body hidden in a wood, a country at war. The problem is the evidence. There was no parachute at the scene, no confirmed spy equipment, no reliable chain connecting Clara to Hagley Wood, no proof that Bella was Clara. The theory survives because it fits the mood, not because it solves the case. And that is important. A case can be historically plausible, and still factually unsupported. In 1953, the case stirred again. A journalist wrote about the murder. Then a woman using the name Anna came forward. She claimed the answer was already beyond human justice. She said the responsible man had died insane. She said the victim was Dutch. She said the woman had entered Britain illegally around 1941. The story grew stranger. A woman named Una Hainsworth later gave a statement. She said her husband, Jack Mossop, had come home disturbed. She claimed he had been with a Dutchman and a woman, a Dutch piece, in the language reported. The woman had allegedly passed out in a car. The men allegedly placed her in the hollow tree, thinking she would wake later. But she never did. Mossop died in a mental hospital in 1942, before the body was found. On paper, this sounds close. Too close to ignore. A Dutch woman, wartime entry, a dead witness, a man haunted by a tree. But again, the proof breaks apart. The account came years later. Key people were dead. Names were uncertain. Records did not confirm enough. It may have been truth. It may have been rumor. It may have been guilt reshaped by time. Police could not turn it into a solved case. The real problem is not that the case has no clues. It has too many. A body in a tree. A cloth in the mouth. A missing hand. A ring. A shoe. Distinctive teeth. Graffiti. Spy rumors. Occult theories. Anonymous letters. A dead suspect. A possible Dutch victim. A lost identity. Each clue should narrow the case. Instead, they widened it. That is why Bella endured. Not because the mystery is empty. Because it is crowded. Every theory has one strong detail. Then one fatal gap. Witchcraft explains the hand, but not the woman. Espionage explains the war setting, but not the evidence. The Anna letter explains the tree, but not the records. The graffiti gives her a name, but not an identity. That is the shape of this case. Not silence, noise. The evidence never vanished into nothing. It fractured into stories. Modern forensics should have changed this. DNA has solved older cases. Teeth can speak. Bones can speak. Family trees can speak. But Bella's remains appear to be gone. Reports say the remains were passed to the university. Later, they disappeared from traceable custody. Police later confirmed they did not hold the body. That may be the final damage. Not the murder itself. The loss of the only evidence that could still answer it. A cold case can survive time, but it cannot survive missing exhibits easily. Without remains, DNA cannot confirm a family. Without a skull, facial reconstruction is limited. Without original evidence, every theory stays suspended. Not dead, not alive, just unresolved. The case becomes a locked room. And the key may have been misplaced decades ago. So who put Bella in the Wych Elm? The honest answer is this. We do not know. We do not know if Bella was her name. We do not know if she was local. We do not know if she was Dutch. We do not know if she was killed in the wood. We do not know if she was moved there. We do not know if the missing hand means anything. We do not know if the graffiti came from guilt, or from gossip. What we do know is narrower. A woman died around 1941. Her body was hidden inside a hollow tree. She was found by boys in April 1943. Forensic evidence suggested suffocation. Police failed to identify her. Later theories outran the evidence. And the remains that might have solved it are no longer available. That is the documented record. Not a witchcraft case. Not a confirmed spy case. Not a solved murder hiding in folklore. A woman lost twice. First in death, then in memory. The myth gave her a name. The evidence never did. And that is why the question still survives. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? Some mysteries survive because nobody looked. This one survived because too many people looked. And each saw a different story.